Okay, boss. Okay. So in the last class, we've seen what is BW, right? So BW is an enterprise data warehousing application, and it's a end-to-end data warehousing application which can extract, do modeling, and then do reporting. And we can also do planning on it, and we can also use it as a data mining tool also. And it also has got reporting tools. Okay. Now, how is it? See, it's all about bringing data, modeling, and reporting. That's it. Okay. So before we get on to this part, and I'm just trying to touch some parts of basics of database which is required for BW, not in depth, but at least the basics what is required. So because when you install BW, you all obviously install it on some database, MS SQL or HANA or Oracle or DB2. So we use some part of database concepts also into BW. So we need to know this. So any database. Now, what is the purpose of a database? Oracle or SQL Server or HANA, whatever it is. What is the purpose of a database? To store data, and then we can retrieve it whenever you need it. That's it, right? So, and any database you take in, ultimately they store data in form of a table. Yeah. And what is a table? If you see, this is like a table, right? You'll have rows and what? Columns. So we define it as set of rows and columns together. We call it as a table. That's it. So any database ultimately has to store in form of table, and rows and columns is a table. Yeah? And is it a two-dimensional object? Rows is one dimension and columns is one dimension, so it will be a two-dimensional object. Yeah? Good. And every table will have, see, these are columns now. I've got sample table like agent code, agent name, working area, commission, phone number. Each one is one column here. Okay, good. And now every table will have something called primary key. Now what is a primary key? Let's say, and this is called as a row, right? Now look at this entry like A007, Bangalore, so and so. This is one row, 2, 3, 4, like about 5 rows in it. And we refer each row as also as what? Record bus. Yeah, good. So each row is also referred as a record in a table. So when we have multiple rows or multiple records in a table, how do we recognize each record? Say for example, this is all about agents, right? If I go with agent name, can there be multiple agents with the same name? So I need to uniquely identify each row or each record of a table bus. That's where I use primary key. Let's say I use something called, I've got a column called agent code which is unique across the rows. Okay, so I said this column is primary key of a table, so that by using the value of this column, I can uniquely identify each row in a table bus. Okay, that's just primary key bus. Okay, and can also use a vocabulary like key field. Can I refer that as key field bus? And other columns which are not part of primary key, I call them as non-key columns. We start using that vocabulary, like say primary key would be referred as key field, and columns which are not part of primary key we call refer as non-key columns. Okay, good. And then say in some cases, when you have a column, single column acting as primary key, we call this primary. But if you have multiple columns together acting as primary key, we call it as composite key. Now if you look at this table, sales order table, now which column can act as primary key in this? If you look at sales order, not unique, right? There are two with same order number. A customer cannot be unique, and metal is not unique. None of the column is qualifying to be unique here. Then in those cases, we combine multiple columns together and set that as composite key. Yeah? Now look at this. Now this is like item level data. Like when a customer places an order to you, does he place an order for one item or multiple items? Multiple items. Let's say now we got order number 1011 for product 1, order number 1011 for what? Second product 101. So either order number is different or product number is. If order number is same, product would be different. If product is same, order number would be different. So if I look at the combination of both order number and material number together, if I set them as primary key, can I set them as composite key here? Now look at this design where I have set sales order number and metal number together as primary key. So I'll refer them as what? Composite key. Because I didn't have single column which could qualify as a primary key. I have combined the values of two columns together and set that as primary key, which is what we refer to as composite key bus. Good. Then there's some concept called foreign key bus. Okay, when a primary, so let's say I got two tables. When a primary key of one table takes part into the other table, we refer it as foreign key. So now look at this. Now I have a table for customer details with all the customer number and their name, address, contact numbers, and I've got sales details which has got customer key in it. Now in the customer table, customer number is a primary key, and this column is being used into this table, so I refer it as what? Foreign key. And with the help of primary key and foreign key, are we establishing relationship between the tables? Yeah. Now the point here is, why should I store data in two tables and then link them with primary key, foreign key bus? Why don't I store the entire data into a single table? That's my question. So I have this data, right? Okay, and I also have this data. Okay, instead of storing like two tables, what I want is, okay, and what is 6001, right? I'll store these details here itself straight away. 6002, that's next person, is also same person, and 603 is what? Different user. Can I do this way? Yes or no? Why should I split my data into two tables? Sales data into different table, customer data into different table. Why don't I end up storing all data into single table? This is much easier, right? Why should I split, link up? Why don't I get the data into single table here? Yeah, you say if I end up storing all data into single table, if you see this, I've got a customer called Chand Nosum, which is been repeated multiple times here. Can one customer perform 1 million transactions? Possible. So if he performs 1 million transactions, I end up storing the same customer details 1 million times. So in that case, do I have my data redundantly stored? Same data is stored again and again. We call it as redundancy bus. Data redundancy bus. So if I store all the data into single table, my complexity will go down. But I have data redundancy where I am wasting my space. Same data is stored again and again, I am wasting my space bus. So to overcome with this, what I will do? What I am doing? I am storing customer data into a different table, sales data into a different table. Now here I just store only customer key. If I need his details, I am getting into a different table and get these details bus. Now if customer 600002 performs 1 million transactions, how many times will I store his name or address or contact? Only once. So by splitting into multiple tables, am I reducing the redundancy? Okay, and that's where, and I split the tables data into multiple tables because of reducing the redundancy with the concept of storing more data with less space. That's my intention. Okay, so I split, but if I need to link up both, I can link them both with what? Primary key and foreign key bus. And here you need to know some concept called referential integrity bus. You need to know something called now say for example, now I have customer still 600006 here. Now I am trying to format another order. Okay, say something 7722 is my order, some product M99 and 600009. Will it should allow me or not? That's my point. I never had a customer with 600009, and how can that take part here? Okay, so when I say referential integrity, when I have foreign key here, only the keys which are already maintained in the primary key of other table can be leveraged into this table, otherwise no. ఇప్పుడు 60099 ఈ టేబుల్ ఉందా లేదు కాబట్టి ఈ టేబుల్ వాడేకి లేదన్నట్టు. దట్ ఈస్ ఎన్ఫోర్సింగ్ రెఫరెన్షియల్ ఇంటిగ్రిటీ బస్. దట్స్ వాట్ ఐమ్. సో when a primary key of one table is used as a foreign key into other table, only the relevant keys can be maintained into the other table bus. Other keys are not allowed to be maintained. That is what enforcing referential integrity bus. Okay. Okay. Next we need to know other terms of database like denormalized tables, normalized tables, normalization. Now what do you mean by denormalized tables? Ante if you look at table with lot of data redundancy, I just showed you a table with lot of redundancy of customer data, we call them as denormalized. If you try to store all the data in a single big table and where you see a lot of data redundancy, we call that as denormalized tables. And if you have denormalized tables, my problem is I am storing less data with more space being utilized. I'm storing redundant data, wasting a lot of database space, and the table becomes huge, and my select statements on those would be really slow down the performance. So then we have a concept called normalized tables. To overcome with this problem, instead of storing all data in a single big table, you split into what? Multiple smaller tables, and then join them with what? Primary key and foreign key. So you split tables to such a level where there is no redundancy at all. So in this case, if it is normalized tables, can I store more data with less space bus? That's my target. So if I given a chance, do you store data in a denormalized format or normalized format? Normalized, because I can store more data with less space being used up. Yeah, good. And let's say I've got a very big table and I would like to split into multiple smaller tables, and I need to go through some process. That is what we call as normalization. The process of converting denormalized tables to normalized tables, we call them as normalization is a process. So normalization is actually a process through which you convert the denormalized tables to normalized tables. And this normalization process will have some rules or forms like form 1, form 2, form 3, form 4. Each form will come out with some rule which will do some operations onto the tables and end up ultimately when you execute all the 4 rules, you end up with lots of tables and then storing data into those tables. We not really worried on what is at form 1, what is at form 2, form 3, form 4. If you're interested, can take help of Google and then try to see, spend some time. Don't be serious on it. Okay, fine. Yeah. So that's fine. We are okay with that concepts of database. So you know what is table, primary key, composite key, foreign key, referential integrity, denormalized tables, normalization. That's okay. Next. Now SAP BW is an application. Yes or no? Now what do you mean by application? See, what do you mean by software applications? Now what do you mean by that? If you look at say WinZip software, you download and use it. That's it, right? But same way, if you look at BW, it's a ready-made software which is already been downloaded by SAP company. You buy it, you install it. As soon after installing, my end users can't really use it. This system has to be customized as per the business requirements, then they can use it. And that is a customization. As a BW consultant, you do that. Your client would buy the BW software, they will install it, and then you start customizing it as per your business requirements, and then you give it to them, they start using it. And as a BW consultant, you do all those kind of customizations onto the BW system. So when I say application, it's a software you have to install, then customize to use it. And if you're able to ready-madely use it, then we call it as a package. A ready-made package you install and then use it, like WinZip software, you install and use it, right? That's how it is. Okay. So SAP BW is an application where it means it's ready-made software designed by SAP, and you just install it and then you customize it and then start using it. Okay. Okay, now let's see this now. And any application you refer, any application, okay, whenever you say it's an application, it must have all those 4: programming language, database, OS, and then concept. Whenever you refer a software as an application, it will have all these four parts: programming language, database, OS, and then concept. Let's say generally when you basically log into yeah, let's say when you go to some supermarket, do you see you stand in line for billing and you get billed up? Yeah. And if you have seen that the screen of that application, they'll have something like screen like this, where they'll have some date or some number, bill number or something. Yeah, they'll have some serial number, and they got some list of item 1, 2, 3, and some particulars you'll have, and same quantity, and then what, price, and then you get out the another text box here, which will give the total amount of bill, and she'll have some buttons like what, save or cancel or what, print. Basically you'll have some interface like this here. Means this is a screen. Now let's say they have developed some application for processing all the billing, and you'll have sales girl who does actually do the billing, and she is the user of that application. You have developed some software and she is using that software, and this is the screen where she is basically interacting with the application. Application ఒక program, ఆ ప్రోగ్రామ్తో తను ఈ స్క్రీన్తో నుంచి ఇంటరాక్ట్ అవుతాం. సో వీ కాల్ దిస్ ఎస్ వాట్, UI bus. We call this user interface. Nothing but the use, that is a screen where my user is interacting. And you have developed a software for the sales girl, and she is interacting with the application with this screen. So we call that as user interface. Okay, good. When she enters all these details and she clicks on save, what will happen was, it basically collects all these details and will go and get saved into some what, some backend database, right? So basically, let's say I have some backend database. Let's say I've used MS SQL Server or Oracle database, and I've done the designs into it. Like I've got lots of small tables. Why will I have 5 tables? Why not 1 table? If I store 1 table, denormalize it. So for some logic, I just thought there are some 5 to 6 tables like this, and they created database like this. And when she clicks on save, what happens? It collects all this data and then inserts the new as a new record into these tables. And when she says cancel, all the screen is cancelled out and refreshes the screen. Every button will have some functionality bus. Okay. So now I've got a database in the back end here, and I've got a screen in this, and next is I need to implement a logic for these buttons. When on click, I need some application, I need some logic to be running in. Okay, then what happens? So for that, do I need to use some programming language? If you look at some application like VB with Oracle as backend, means what? VB is a programming language and Oracle is a backend database. Yeah. So what I do is, to design this UI, user interface, I need a programming language. To implement my application logic for save, cancel, printing, I need a programming language. To store my data, ultimately I use what? Database. So for designing the UI interface and implementing the application logic, I was using programming language. To store data permanently in the backend for durability, for long purposes, I have used what? Database in the backend. Yes, boss? Let's say I have used VB as a front end, I have used VB programming language, and Oracle as a backend database, and I have developed an application. And I don't give the code to her. I develop an exe file, and I give that exe file to the sales girl. And what she does, she runs that exe file and then start using that application. If she has to run that exe file, should she have the OS bus? Without OS, can you install your exe file and run the exe files? No. So she will need a OS and then run my application on top of that OS bus, and then she runs that exe file. Clear? Okay. So I've got programming language, I need a database, I need a OS to run my exe files. Now I've developed this application. Is there some reasoning why I've developed it? No, right? There is some reason or there is some purpose for which I've developed this. So I've developed this application with VB and Oracle to process all the billing transactions of a supermarket bus. So that is called as concept. So whenever you say an application, it will always have 4 things: programming language for front end and the logic, database to store your data, and to run it will have OS, and then concept for what it's been designed for. Same way, now when I say BW, let me type it here. Now when I say BW is an application bus, SAP BW or BIW is all same. When I say this is also an application, will it have all those four? Yeah, it should have programming language, database, and then what? OS, and a concept. So programming language, all SAP products are developed with ABAP as the language bus. So for BW again, it's an SAP product that has been developed by using ABAP as a language. And then will it have database? So you go about installing your BW on top of some database. You can install with any database you want. When it comes to BW, when you're buying the BW software, you can install with on any. First you install a database, and then you install BW on top of the database actually. So you can install a SQL server, then install database BW on it, or install HANA, then install BW on top of it, or install Oracle, then install BW on top of it. Can be done. Okay, can I say any database, any DB, OS, I can install on Windows or Unix, whatever it is. Linux or Unix, anything. And then what is this? Concept. For what purpose did SAP develop this product? EDW, Enterprise Data Warehousing. Means what? It means actually the concept of Enterprise Data Warehousing says we should extract data from different systems, store, and then do reporting. So BW is being developed for it. So BW should have the capabilities of extracting, modeling, and then do reporting. That's the concept. EDW is a concept, and BW is implementing the concept of EDW. The concept. Okay, boss. And if you look at this enterprise warehouse concept, what is it? You'll have different transaction systems. There is a concept called OLTP enterprise, online transaction processing, which actually takes care of processing all the transactions of your business. In a business, you do different variety of transactions. All those are recorded will be recorded to some systems, and in a data warehouse, you basically by using ETL process, you extract all those data, store into a warehouse, and then do reporting or data mining or whatever it is. And BW can do ETL, BW can do modeling, BW can do reporting. It is an end-to-end data warehousing solution. So BW can do extraction, modeling, reporting, mining, planning, all those stuff. So BW is an end-to-end data warehousing applications. Okay, and since it has been given by, it's a product designed by SAP, it has got very good tight integration between ECC, CRM, or all other products of. For other products of SAP has got a very good integration towards BW bus. Okay, and that is the main advantage where many of the customers going towards BW bus. Without BW also I can implement data warehousing, but the kind of integration, let's say there is a customer who's already got SAP ECC as their transaction system, which is a very much successful tool. But if that is been in place, and if they want to have a data warehousing solution, BW would be the best suit, because BW and ECC have got tight integration. Ready-made extractors, ready-made data sources, ready-made procedures are given through which you can bring data into BW bus. That forces the customers to go to BW. Okay. Next. Okay. Next, we need to understand other vocabulary about what is master data and transact, because when you extract data from different source to BW, we extract master data and we also extract transaction data also. So now we need to understand what do you mean by master data, what do you mean by, these are basics to do any any modeling, okay. So we need to know what do you mean by master data and what do you mean by transaction database. So before we understand this, let's understand this vocabulary bus. What do you mean by business? Suppose if my business is a service industry, then I don't do manufacturing. So so when I ask him what business, he is explaining me the transactions, what he's doing. So if I go to some small shop and to pawn shop and say what is it, how is your business అంటే ఏందన్నా డల్గా ఉందన్నా ఏం చేస్తావు బిజినెస్ ఏంటంటే ఏం లే వాళ్ళది 5 రూపాయలు కొంటే వీళ్ళకి 6 రూపాయలకి అమ్ముతాను అన్నట్టు, రూపాయలు లాభం అన్నట్టు. అంటే when asking what business he does is really explaining me all the transactions what it does, all the activities what it does it, right? So can I define it as set of business activities or transactions? వాడు చేసే యాక్టివిటీస్ అన్నీ కలిపితే వాళ్ళ బిజినెస్ అవుతుంది అంతే. ఏం వ్యాపారం చేస్తాను అంటే ఏముందని 5 రూపాయలు కొంటే 6 రూపాయలు అమ్ముతాను, రూపాయలు లాభం అని అంటాడు. అంటే ఈజ్ బేసికలీ ఎక్స్ప్లెయినింగ్ మీ వెన్ ఆస్క్ హిమ్ వాట్ బిజినెస్ యూ డూ, ఈజ్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయినింగ్ మీ ఆల్ ద యాక్టివిటీస్ వాట్ ఇట్ డస్. But depending on the type of business, the scale of business, the type of transactions and number of transactions, the size of transaction will differ. If you look at a company like BMW, the variety of transactions what they'll have and the volume of transactions, the kind of transaction, the frequency of the transaction will be differ from business to business. Yeah. But ultimately, ఎవడైనా చేయాల్సింది ఏంటన్నా ట్రాన్సాక్షన్. ఎంత పెద్ద బిజినెస్ అయినా ఎంత చిన్న బిజినెస్ అయినా చేయాల్సింది ట్రాన్సాక్షన్. సో ఇట్స్ ఆల్ డిఫరెంట్ సెట్ ఆఫ్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ వాట్ దే డూ ఈజ్ వాట్ వీ రెఫర్ ఇట్ యాజ్ దేర్ బిజినెస్ మోడల్. గుడ్. నెక్స్ట్ ఇస్ వాట్ ఈజ్ అ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్? వాట్ ది మీన్ బై ఎ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్? దట్స్ వాట్. సరే నేను అడుగుతా, సరే అబ్బా నువ్వు ఏమేం చేస్తావు అబ్బా, వాట్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ డూ అంటే సెల్లింగ్ బయింగ్ అని అడుగుతా. వాట్ ఈజ్ సెల్లింగ్ అని అడుగుతా అంటే ఏముందన్నా, వాడు సప్లయర్ వస్తాడు మన దగ్గర నుంచి ప్రోడక్ట్స్ నేను కొంటాను అంటే, if you look at this, 3 people are getting involved in. One is supplier or vendor, okay, the shop owner and the products. These 3 entities are interacting and then they're performing my event, and that event is referred as a transaction. Any transaction lo iddaru untaru minimum, 2 events jarugutayi. You'll have 2 entities minimum and they interact and they generate an event, and which is what we refer to as transaction. At least 2 entities are minimum or 2 objects are required there to have an event, and this event is what we refer to as transaction. Clear on this, boss? Okay, it could be selling or buying, anything you take in, at least minimum 2 entities, boss. And what is an entity? Like noun in English grammar, noun, name, place, animal, thing becomes an entity, boss. Like product is an entity, table is an entity, chair is an entity, a person is an entity, supplier is an entity, customer is an entity. Any object which we can do work on it or which we can use it to do some work. Any object which can do some work on its own or which I can use it to do some work becomes an entity. Elephant, it can sit, it can stand, it can walk, I can use it also for some other purpose. Yeah? So all these are entities. Noun bus ante, name, place, animal, thing, it becomes your entities bus. Okay, and when 2 or more entities interact with each other and they generate an event, and that event is referred as transactions. Now you understand what is event, what is a transaction now, and what is business, right? Good. Let's say now I have a purchasing transaction. Let's say I'm look at purchasing transaction where I've got supplier or vendor, supplier, and I've got my products, and I've got the shop owner, company itself. So there are 3 parties getting involved. One is supplier, and one is the product, and one is the shop owner, the company. These 3 involve and they perform an event which is referred as purchasing. Kada? Detailed information about supplier is what we refer to as supplier master data. Detailed information about the product, we call it product master data. Detailed information about company, we call it company master data. Okay? Let's say I've got a company called C1, I've got a product called P1, I've got a supplier called S1. వీళ్ళు ముగ్గురు కలిపి ఒక ఈవెంట్ చేశారు. అంటే ఎట్లా అంటే the purchase number, every transaction, let's say they have some unique number, say purchase order number 1, okay, with supplier S1, with product P1, with company C1, and the quantity was 5 and the price was 50, so the total value of the order was 250. You look at this data, I'm giving you some data like say this is the purchase order number, and this was the supplier, this was the company or buyer who initiated it, or this is the product, this was the quantity, this was a price, and this was the amount, value of the order. Now by looking at this data, do we understand that there is some event? ఈ డేటా చూస్తే ఎవడో సప్లయర్ ఎవడో ప్రోడక్ట్ ఏదో ప్రోడక్ట్ని ఎవడో కంపెనీకి అమ్మినాడని అర్థమవుతుందన్న అంటే దట్ ఈస్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్. సో ఇఫ్ యూ లుక్ అట్ సమ్ డేటా విచ్ రిప్రజెంట్స్ అన్ ఈవెంట్ ఆర్ విచ్ రిప్రజెంట్స్ అ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్, ఐ కాల్ దట్ as ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ డేటా. అర్థమైందన్న? So do you understand what is master data and what is transaction database? My question ఇప్పుడు నాకేందంటే, let's say I've been doing my business from since 1 year or 2 years. Okay, I've got the complete history of all my transactions, whatever I've purchased, whatever I've sold. I've got complete history of those, history of entire transactions, and I also have the entire master data, means detail information of every product, every supplier, every customer I've got, and every details of my company I've got. I've got all my master data, and I've got all my transaction information with me. Now, after 1 year, I see my business is really not doing well, and I would like to do something to improve my business. ఎట్లా అంటే, నా చిన్న షాప్, నా మెడికల్ షాప్ అనుకున్నా. ఓకే, నాకు అన్ని ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ హిస్టరీ అంతా ఉంది, దాని ఉంది, ఏదో అనలైజ్ చేసి నా బిజినెస్ ఇంప్రూవ్ చేయాలి బస్. ఓకే బస్, ఇఫ్ యూ నీడ్ టు డూ దిస్, యూ అనలైజ్ వాట్, ఏం అనలైజ్ చేస్తావు? ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ అనలైజ్ చేస్తావా? బేసిక్లీ యూ డీల్ విత్ కస్టమర్స్, రైట్? నువ్వు కస్టమర్ని అనలైజ్ చేస్తావా? సో ఐ వుడ్ అనలైజ్ కస్టమర్ by using the historical transaction. అంటే ultimately my focus is on the entities, అంటే కస్టమర్, ప్రోడక్ట్, సప్లయర్, వీళ్ళని అనలైజ్ చేసి I analyze them based on my historical transactions what I've done. ఓకే, నాకు హిస్టారికల్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ చూసి నాకు ఏమర్థమైందంటే, ఈ కస్టమర్ వాళ్ళు వస్తున్నారు కానీ ఓన్లీ నా మెడికల్ షాప్ మందులు కొంటున్నారు కానీ నాకు చాక్లెట్స్ కూడా కొనడంలే. బేసికలీ మెడికల్ షాప్లో డైరీ మిల్క్ అని పెట్టింటాం కదా, ప్రతి కూడా వస్తున్నాడు, ప్రతిసారి చాక్లెట్స్ మాత్రం ఎవడు కొనడంలే, టాబ్లెట్లు మాత్రం కొనుక్కొని పోతున్నాను. ఎట్లా అంటే అప్పుడు నాకు ఆ పాయింట్ అర్థమైంది. సో నేను ఏం అనలైజ్ చేసిన, కస్టమర్ని అనలైజ్ చేసిన. ఐ అనలైజ్ మై కస్టమర్స్ దట్ దే హెవ్ నాట్ with some my historical transaction I could understand there is some product which has never been sold in the last year at all. కనుక్కున్నా హిస్టారికల్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్ బట్టి ఈ కస్టమర్ కాళ్ళు అసలు నా డైరీ మిల్క్ చాక్లెట్స్ కొనడం లేదు, ఏం చేయాలబ్బా అని నా పాయింట్. ఓకే, సో వెన్ ఐ అనలైజ్ దెమ్ విత్ హిస్టారికల్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ బట్టి నాకు అర్థమైంది ఏమని, వీళ్ళు చాక్లెట్లు కొనలేదు అన్నట్టు. అప్పుడు నాకు షాప్లో చూసి ఏమైంది, చాక్లెట్ ఎత్తిపోయి వెనక పెట్టినారన్నట్టు, కనపడలేవునికి. సరే అని చెప్పి ఎత్తుకొచ్చి ముందర టేబుల్ మీద పెట్టినా. వరుస పెట్టి పిల్లలు ఏడుస్తున్నారు, చలువులు కొంటాను, పిల్లలు ఏడుస్తున్నారు, చూస్తాను, కొంటాను, అయిపోయింది అంతే. వాట్ ఈస్ హ్యాపెనింగ్? డబ్బాను ముందుకు తీసుకొచ్చి వెనక నుంచి తీసుకొచ్చి ముందు పెట్టే డెసిషన్ తీసుకోవడం వల్ల నా బిజినెస్ పెరిగిందన్న. ఈ డబ్బా వెనక నుంచి ముందు తీసుకొచ్చి పెట్టాలంటే నువ్వు ఏం చేసినావు? హౌ డిడ్ యూ గెట్ టు దిస్ అనాలిసిస్? యూ హెవ్ అనలైజ్డ్ యువర్ హిస్టారికల్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్స్, దాన్ని బట్టి చాక్లెట్లు ఎవడు కొనలేదని అర్థం చేసుకున్నావు కాబట్టి ఈ డెసిషన్కి వచ్చినావు అన్న. అదే హిస్టారికల్ ట్రాన్సాక్షన్ నీ దగ్గర లేకపోతే యూ కుడ్ హ్యావ్ నెవర్ అనలైజ్డ్ ఇట్ అండ్ యూ నెవర్ మూవ్డ్ అ బాక్స్ ఫ్రమ్ బ్యాక్ టు ఫ్రంట్. ఐ నో దిస్ ఈస్ వెరీ సింపుల్ పాయింట్ బట్ మేక్స్ లాట్ ఆఫ్ డిఫరెన్స్. అప్పటి నుంచి రోజు ఒక 5 చాక్లెట్లు అమ్ముతా పోయినాడు, అది అంతేనన్నా. సో యూ అండర్స్టాండ్ అబౌట్ ఎంటిటీ. నౌ యూ షుడ్ అండర్స్టాండ్ entities. You got transaction data. So you, as part of warehouse, what you do, you extract master data, you extract transactions of that master data, you extract entities, and you extract transactions of those entities, and go about analyzing those entities based on their transactions, and come out with the analysis and come out with decision making process. Adi concept anna. Okay na boss? Yeah. So we'll stop it here. We still have some. Let's continue. Sorry sir. Yeah, I'm recording. Yeah. Okay, now we're getting into SAP BW architecture. Okay, other day we've seen, but it was very rough. Okay, so let's get into more detailed ones. So like any other application, this also works with server and client architecture. You would install, see, if you really want work with BW, what do you install it, right? You basically get the SAP BW software and you get the database. First what you do is you install OS. Yeah, how do you install a server? Yeah, you install OS, then you install database, then you start installing SAP software. When you installing SAP software, first you install something called kernel, then you would install SAP ABAP applications on top of it. Then your server is ready. Okay, so it could be on Unix or Windows depending on the scenario. So if you look at my server, it has got database and it has got application server. Application server, it's all programs built with what? ABAP, database, it could be any database here, which is will be used for all your storing all your data relevant to that application bus. So let's say I can have single server system with the database and application server in it, or I can have database in a different system. I can have application server in a different system also, or it could be one system, or it could be multi-node architecture also, depending on the hardware capabilities. If I'm able to satisfy my hardware sizing of a server in single system, I would go with one node. If I'm not able to satisfy my hardware sizing with single node, I need to have 2-3 systems together made as a server, then I would go with what? Multi-node, where you'll have one central instance server and others would be referred as dialog instances. Possible? నాకు హార్డ్వేర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్ ఒక సిస్టమ్తో సరిపోలేదు అనుకున్నారు, 3-4 సిస్టమ్లు కలిపి ఒక సర్వర్ లాగా సెట్ చేస్తాం. చేసినప్పుడు ఒకటి one will be referred as central instance and others will be referred as dialog instance. That's how you install your BW server bus. So BW server is installed, and then you don't really get connected to server bus. Means not connection, you don't log into server system. Yeah? Basically, you would sit in the client system, some desktop or laptop, and then you start getting connected. You need to connect it to what? SAP server BW, and then start getting working onto it. So for this, we need to install SAP what? GUI bus. So it's a simple software, just say next, and you install it. And once you have the GUI installed in your system, you can get connected to the server bus. ఇప్పుడు మన ల్యాబ్ అంతే, మనకి ల్యాబ్ ఏం లేదు, ఓన్లీ సర్వర్లు పెద్ద ఉంటాయి. నువ్వు ఓన్లీ నీ ల్యాప్టాప్ తెచ్చుకుని యూనిట్ ఇన్స్టాల్ GUI and start getting connected to the server and start working on it. Without GUI, you will not be able to get connected to your SAP. Any SAP application, in fact, not only BW, ECC, CRM, APO, BW, anything it is, you need to have your GUI installed. From the GUI, get connected to your server and start working on. And every operation you do in the client, it sends a request to server, and then the request is processed in the server and gets a response from them. Normal server client server architecture. Itla you basically do some, let's say you say create cube, or let's say do the loading and on. It's a request sent to server, and server does the processing and gives you a message saying data is loaded. So all processing is all done at the server, and it's only interfacing what you're doing with the client in the client systems. Okay. Okay. Now this is that's a technical architecture, how it is. It will be 3-tier architecture. You'll have database layer, application server, and presentation. Presentation is nothing but your client systems, and database layer and application layer will be all at the server level. Okay. And application layer will have all the programs built with ABAP, and database layer will have all the database tables in it. And then functional architecture. When I say functional architecture, see, we already knew that BW is basically a data warehousing application which has to extract, store, and then do reporting. So what all objects have been delivered with BW, or what components or what functionalities have been delivered in BW to satisfy or to implement data warehousing solution. That's the concept. BW లో ఏమేమి ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఏమేమి ఫంక్షనాలిటీస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఎలాంటి ప్రాసెస్లు ఉన్నాయి, ఎలాంటి ప్రొసీజర్స్ ఉన్నాయి, through which you can leverage or implement the concept of data warehousing. That's the concept. Okay, no? That is what we are trying to understand as a functional architect. BW అంటే data warehousing solution అన్నాం. డేటా warehousing solution కాన్సెప్ట్ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేసేదానికోసం BW ఏమేమి ఇచ్చినాడు, ఏమేమి కాంపోనెంట్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఏమేమి ఫంక్షనాలిటీస్ ఉన్నాయి, ఏమేమి ప్రొసీజర్స్ ఉన్నాయి, ఏమేమి మెథడాలజీస్ ఉన్నాయి, అది పాయింట్. దట్స్ వాట్ ఐ మీన్ as functional architecture. Okay. As part of data warehousing, should I extract data from different source to BW? Yes. For extraction, what is done is, look at this. SAP BW will have something called adapters. It will have something called adapters, okay? Or source system connectors. You can use any vocabulary. You can say adapters or source system connectors, through which you can get connected to any application, any source. SAP or non-SAP applications can be connected. Let's say you have data in Excel file, and I would like to load this into BW. Do I need to establish connection from BW to Excel file? That is actually source system connection. Let's say you have an Oracle database. It has got all the purchasing data in it, and I need to bring this purchasing data from Oracle database to BW. Do I need to establish connection between BW and Oracle database? Yes. Let's say I've got SAP ECC data. It has got all my invoices. I would like to extract the invoice data from SAP ECC to BW. Do I need to establish connection between BW and ECC? Yes. That is what I mean as source system connections or interfaces or adapters. So what SAP has done is they've given different types of connections. Like if you see this, these are the different types of connections. You'll have automatic SAP connection or manual connection. The first two automatic SAP connection or manual SAP connection, both are used to connect any SAP application to BW. Say, I have SAP ECC application, you can connect that with this. I have got SAP CRM, I have got SAP APO, I have got SAP SCM. Any SAP applications can be connected to BW through what? Automatic SAP interface or manual SAP interface, and which will be based out of ABAP concepts, something called RFC bus, remote function call. We use these connections will be based on RFCs, remote function call. Remote function call, it's a definition through which you can remotely log into the other systems. In ECC, you will have an RFC through which you can remotely log into BW. In BW, you will have an RFC connection which can help you to remotely log into ECC. With the help of RFCs, you will establish a connection. And next one, SAP Business Information Warehouse, which is also referred as myself connection. For example, let's say I have BW. Within BW, I want to do the loading. Say, for example, if layman terms lo understand, I've got table 1, I've got table 2. From table 1 of BW, I would like to load into table 2 of BW. Table 1 is in BW, table 2 is also in BW. Now, what is my source system now? BW itself is source system for BW. That is what we refer to as myself, and for all these kind of scenarios of myself, we use this connection SAP Business Information Warehouse. Okay. And next, file system, which we use it to extract data from flat files. If it could be fixed length file or .csv file or Excel files. Before 7.3 or 7.4, we cannot extract from XLS files, only CSV. But now we are flexible of extracting from XLS also, the latest version. So now take it as Excel or what? CSV can be extracted, CSV files or fixed length files, Excel files can be extracted using what? File interface. Yeah. Which one more? From 7.3 they are supporting XLS also. Once 7.3 supports, 7.4 is all supports. Next, we have got something called database system, which we refer to as DB connector. Okay. We use this when let's say I've got Oracle database with I said about purchasing data in it, and I would like, and it is in some table in Oracle database. I would like to extract that. So what I'll do? First, I'll establish an interface or connection between Oracle database to what? BW, and then start pushing. I need to connect Oracle database to BW. Then I use what? DB connect. So it doesn't mean I can only use DB connect to connect only SAP certified databases to BW. Like SAP certified databases, like look at this: Oracle, SQL Server, Informix, DB2, DB4, DB6, ADA, or now HANA also has joined in. All those SAP certified databases alone can be joined to what? Can be connected to BW by using what? DB connectors. Okay. Good. First, let me come to this. Then I'll come to this. Then there's something called what? Web services. By using XML data, I can push my data into BW also by using web service connections also. Okay. Then I've got BAPI connections. Say, for example, there is certain application which I'm not able to integrate it to BW directly. Then what I can do? I can use some ETL tools as a middleware between BW and that application. For example, we had used this in the real time. We were trying to connect a mainframe system, but because of the resource constraint, we were not able to establish a permanent database connection to mainframe system. Then what we did is we have used Informatica as a middleware ETL tool. Informatica connects the mainframes as a source system and pushes data to BW as a target. So between BW and mainframe, we are leveraging other ETL tools like this. In some special cases, we can use BODS, we can use Informatica or data stage, anything can be leveraged as a. And then if this is a scenario, you would like to connect some third party ETL tools to BW, right? In that case, I use this external connection using what? BAPI. This is the connection we use when you want to integrate some third party ETL tools like data stage, BODS, or Informatica, all this to connect to BW. We use that external system connecting through BAPI bus. Okay. Then we have something called UD connector, universal data connector. Using this universal data connector, you can connect to any application, SAP or non-SAP, anything. Look at this. This universal data connect internal will have different adapters like JDBC. When you have JDBC, can it connect to any database in the world, because Java can universally connect any database you want, and it will get another adapter like Open Database Connect, which can again be connected to any database. It is a SAP Cube, which is a SAP query which can be used to leverage to connect any SAP applications, and using XML it can also bring in web service also. So by using universal connect UD Connect, you can connect any SAP or non-SAP both, but only thing is this is based on the Java stack. Performance of UD Connect is really slow when compared to other connections. So UD connector will be used as a last option because the performance is really bad. It plays on Java stack. But ante your BW will have dual stack ante your BW application server will have some programs relevant to ABAP. You will have some programs relevant to Java also. Actually, dual stack ani undannattu.
In that case, UD connector is not even SAP non-certified database also connected.
Any database or any SAP application can be connected through UD connector. But performance wise it is slow because it is based on Java stack. Okay. So like this we have got different adapters. Through which you can get connected to different systems to this. Then once you establish connection, you start triggering the data loading process where it extracts data from the source database to your BW bus. And what are the data you are extracting? Do you extract mass data or transaction data or both? Both. Simple. What are the mass data? You will have different data containers now. With respect to modeling, you will model or you will build up data containers for mass data or transaction data bus. That's like cube, ODS and untai. Don't worry about those, but you just refer it as data containers. Whatever the data we have extracted from different sources, I need to physically load into some containers bus. If it is mass data, we'll have different set of containers. If it is transaction data, we'll have different set of containers. See, you have a container like what is mass data, and you have mass data can contain only mass data into it. DSO can hold either mass data or transaction data, and you have another container. What is here? Which is a multidimensional object can contain only transaction data. Cube only transaction data. ODS can have anything, and mass data will have only mass data into it. That's the point. So what are the data you extract? You push the if it is extracting mass data, you will push into what? Mass data containers. If you are pushing into, if it is transaction, you push into DSO or to the cube directly, in case by case. Basically, when will I use ODS? When will I use cube? ODS will override the data bus, but cube will add up the records. For example, in the source I have an order with 7722, and the value of the order is 5000. I bring it to BW, and later it is changed to 7000, and my database brings it as 7000. Should I go and override the change? Yes. Previously I got the record into BW as 5000. Now I am getting the record with 7000, so I should go and override. In that case, I will use ODS bus. Say for example, I'm extracting stock movements. For example, every transaction is one movement. Say I have a stock of 10 in as inflow. 10 stock లోపలికి వచ్చిందని ఒక ట్రాన్సాక్షన్, మళ్ళీ 5 స్టాక్ బయటికి పోయిందని రాసుకున్నాం. ఇది సీక్వెన్స్. ఇది ఓవర్ ఏ టైం లేదు. I just need add up. So stock 10 goes into my cube, stock -5 goes into my cube, and add up. What is the value? What is stock? 5. I give it reverse. Let's say 5 stock has gone out, 10 stock has come in. What is the stock? ఎట్లా తిరిగి 10 minus 5 వేసినా -5 plus 10 వేసినా ఎట్లా రిజల్ట్ నీకు వచ్చేది 5 కదా. So in that case, I'm not really worried about overwriting. I'm only worried about additive, adding up additive nature of data. In that case, I can prefer it to load data directly to my cube. If I'm extracting some data where my data is behaviors of more of overwriting stuff, then I would go with ODS, additive stuff to the cube, and mass data to the mass data bus. And you see something called, what is it? PSA. For every, whether it is mass data or transaction, it has to come into PSA. Now what is we call it? Persistent staging area and temporary staging areas. What are the data coming into BW, whether it is master data or transaction data, it does first gets into PSA table, and from there it gets into the next level data content like master data or ODS or cube depending on the requirement. Then what is the importance of PSA? Let's say you got 10 records in the source. Same 10 records without any modifications will come and sit into PSA. And once data comes into PSA, if you are not happy with that, you can do modifications. Okay, say all the 10 records will come to PSA. When the data is moved from PSA to your master data, PSA to ODS or PSA to cube, you can implement your transformations and modify your data and then send it to cube or DSO or master depending on the requirement. So PSA is just used for staging area. For example, there is some invalid data bus. PSA వచ్చింది. PSA will hold exactly the replica irrespective of data quality వస్తుంది. But while loading into cube error ఇస్తుంది. ఏమని స్పెషల్ క్యారెక్టర్ ఉంది నేను లోడ్ చేయలేను అంటుంది అన్నట్టు. అప్పుడు వాడిని పోయి బస్ నువ్వు సోర్స్లో డేటా మార్చబట్టే మాకు కరెక్ట్ నువ్వు చూసుకో అంటాడు. అప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి? Let the 10 records come to PSA. I would do editing in PSA, then take the records back from PSA to my target. So I can use my PSA as error handling tool. Okay. Basically, PSA will hold exactly the replica of data what is coming from source. We can do editing in PSA and we can do error handling in PSA. It's like a staging area. Okay, good. Next, then in BW we can also do reporting. Once we have the data coming into data container, on top of this data container, can we do reporting with the component called what? BEX, Business Explorer. Business Explorer will have different set of suite. It will have suite of products like query designer, WAD, analyzer, but those are not now heavily used. Query designer is the only one which is heavily used now with the BO introduction, because SAP took over business objects, right? But business objects will still need query designer query coming from the query, because it is really very strong tool, because you can design complex queries, and these complex queries they take into BO for all the presentations. So ultimately, even after introduction of SAP business objects on top of BW, BEX query designer still holds really good. Okay. కొంచెం BO వచ్చింది, BEX వెళ్ళిపోయింది, అవన్నీ ఉత్తమాటలు. BEX query designer is still heavily valid, okay, because they got something called BIX connection where they can consume this BEX query directly in web report without universe also. That's where, so it is very important. Next, like any application, we'll also have something called metadata repository. What is metadata bus? Information about every component what you create. Let's say you create cube, you create ODS, you create master data, you create PSA, you create connections. All this information should get stored into some tables in the backend. Information ఏదో టేబుల్ బ్యాకెండ్ స్టోర్ కావాల్సింది కదా. దట్ ఈస్ ఆల్ మెయింటైన్డ్ బై యువర్ మెటాడేటా రెపాజిటరీ, అండ్ ఇట్ ఇస్ ఆల్ మెయింటైన్డ్ బై మెటాడేటా మేనేజర్. మెటాడేటా మేనేజర్ ఉంటాడు, వాడంతా కలెక్ట్ చేసి మెటాడేటా రిపాజిటరీలో పెడతాడు. రిపాజిటరీ అంటే ఇట్స్ లైక్ స్టాండర్డ్ టేబుల్స్ ఆఫ్ SAP BW సిస్టమ్ టేబుల్స్. అండ్ దెన్ now loading data from different source to BW, is it one time job or regular job? Regular job. So that's why BW has got its own scheduling tools like process chains, where you can schedule the data loading through background. Okay, and once it is scheduled, do we need to have flexibility of doing monitoring them? Success go both on the fail fix cheyadam avani. We'll also have dedicated monitoring tools to do that, and we also have lots of administration like user creations, authorizations, security, roles, profiles. We have all those concepts in BW where you can control data level security also. For example, I have got I've got a cube which has got data for 5 countries, like say 2 regions, like say 4 regions, south, east, north, west, and I can have the querying done on this cube by multiple users, where one user can see data only for south, one user can see only data for north, east, where at a control this. We can also control data level security also can be controlled at BW with the help of administration. And then there's something called open up destinations also. There's some concept called open up destination which we use it for interaction. Let's say from BW they would like to extract it back to different system again. We have extract data from different system into BW, fine. From BW they would like to retract back to different applications. Then I can use this open up destinations. అంటే BW ఉన్న డేటాను మళ్ళీ వేరే అప్లికేషన్ ఎత్తుకోవాలన్నప్పుడు I use this concept of open up destinations. జనరల్గా రియల్ టైంలో what they do, BW will be considered as huge big data warehousing application. They can implement some small data marts అంటే ఎట్లంటే బిడలు మొత్తం ఉంది కదన్న, నాకు ఫైనాన్స్ డిపార్ట్మెంట్ మాత్రం మేము సొంతం అప్లికేషన్ కొనుక్కున్నాం కాబట్టి ఫైనాన్స్ డేటా ఇచ్చేయండి అంటే మేము బిడల నుంచి ఫైనాన్స్ డేటా ఎత్తుకెళ్తారు. అన్ని బిడలకు రావాల్సింది అక్కడి నుంచి ఎత్తుకో, ఎందుకంటే ఇఫ్ దే డోంట్ టేక్ ఇట్ ఫ్రమ్ BW, అక్కడ క్వెరీ రిపోర్ట్ రిజల్ట్స్ వేరే, బిడల్ రిజల్ట్స్ వేరే వచ్చినాయంటే దేర్ ఇస్ నో సింగిల్ ఫ్యాక్ట్ ఆఫ్ ట్రూత్. So they take the data from BW to their application, they do report. So obviously the reports in BW and reports in their applications also will match. వాళ్ళు ఏమంటే వాళ్ళ ఓన్ డాష్ బోర్డింగ్కి మేము సపరేట్ టూల్ కొనుక్కున్నాము, మా ఎఫ్ఐ డేటా ఇచ్చేయండి అంటే ఇచ్చేస్తాం. అంతే ఇచ్చేసి మన దాంట్లో కూడా ఉంటుంది, వాళ్ళు కాపీ తీసుకుని వెళ్తాను, తీసుకెళ్ళి వాళ్ళ దాంట్లోకి లోడ్ చేసుకుని వాళ్ళు గ్రాఫ్స్ వాళ్ళ కథ వాళ్ళు చూసుకుంటారు. So when they want to implement some agile data marts concepts like this, they can also retract data from BW and they take it to another applications. Then you can use this open up destination or open up services. So this is all is going to be BW, what we're going to see about. Okay. So we'll stop it here and we'll continue tomorrow.